You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
You guys are in for the best episode.
Daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Wait, that's what happened. You guys are in for the best episode. There's a little bit of a echo there. Sorry about that. I had the YouTube open, and that's what happened. That was the worst cold opening ever. You're watching Kickin It With Onrie, the live crowdfunding show. We got a great guest for you guys, so sit back and get ready to ask some questions because this dude is the man. He's so great that I busted out the siren just for him. I don't just do that for nobody. So stick around, and we will be right back.
For years, I have traveled the world slinging my creator-owned comics at the biggest and hottest cons. Now I'm sitting down with creators who have active crowdfunding campaigns happening right now, and I'm opening the gateway so that you can connect with them and support their work. You're watching Kickin It With Onrie, the live crowdfunding show.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Kickin It With Onrie, the live crowdfunding show. I think this is like our 7th episode now. Since we made this transition over. This was something that Kyle and I decided to do back in April. And the purpose of it was to put the spotlight on the creators and the campaigns on platforms like Kickstarter and Indiegogo and all that kind of stuff. So it's a little bit different than the virtual signing where we have where I would actually sell creators' work on the live show. I think actually bringing everybody over directly to the campaign so that you guys can back it is more important. And another thing I want to let you guys know too is that many of the time when you see me bring on a guest, I have already backed their campaigns or I back their campaigns while we do the show. And the reason why I do it is because I believe in them and I think that they have very bright futures. And the one thing I'm going to say, having been a dealer now for a couple of years and having done a live show last night on the EXP where the entire focus was just indie comics, the markup and the ability to make a profit on indie comics is there already. It's not even that there's potential, it's there. There are a lot of creators out there who are doing it, and to help cultivate that and help that grow is something that means very much to me because I'm just like them. I'm a creator too. That's how I got started in this business. That's what I originally wanted to be known for. Unfortunately, I fell into this little area called sales and I'm really good at it. So buy stuff and you haven't bought anything for me lately, you should back Joe's Kickstarter. Let's bring on our guest. We got Joe McPhee.
Hey, we got to do it like we do it on the live sales show. David Moore.
Yeah, David Moore. It works with your name too, dude.
Yes.
How's it going, brother?
Oh, it's going. Just got off of the 9 to 5 and I'm here. I'm happy that I was able to make the show because I was actually kind of worried because of the simple fact that it runs so neck and neck. It's like having like a regular 9 to 5 job and then trying to get off of that to do what you really want to do, which is the aspect of the creative side of comics here.
I completely understand that. I find myself in the same boat now because, with dealing, it's like it's fun to sell comics, right? But then there's the warehousing, the invoicing, the shipping, and finding time to do all this. And then, obviously procurement, which can be fun at times, it's always fun. You're going out and buying comics, but I certainly understand that because, there's only so many hours in the day and it's always in that like little tiny spot, that hour or two when I have that last remaining bit of energy. That's when I can get my comic book stuff done. And I know that there are a lot of creators out there who end up having to do that same thing because I think we live in a time right now where it's like you have to do so many things just to survive that making comics it's more of a luxury, and it shouldn't be that because this is a lot of work. And speaking of your work, you've been working on this book since 2020, I want to say. Like, you've been working on this for a long time, and now you got it on Kickstarter. I saw you got funded very, very quickly. I'm honored to be one of the first backers. So tell me, how are you feeling right now? Because you're in the middle of your campaign. This is the tough part too.
I'm in the middle of a campaign, but it's also a first. A lot of the things that happen in this campaign is a lot of firsts. for one, this is the first time that my campaign backed within 56 minutes. Normally I would be up here, running and hustling and doing what I can to advertise to get people over there. The second thing is that we're firmly into stretch goals. So, that's another first. So I'm experiencing a lot of firsts this time around, but as far as the overall process, it's like I'm in what is considered the dead zone at this point. Every so often you get maybe one or two new backers trickling in. And at that point, the only thing that you can really do is either A, focus in on how you're advertising, how you're trying to reach out to people, or B, work on those extra things that you need to do to fulfill like a campaign, such as like with sketch covers and stuff to that magnitude.
Speaking of which, I actually sold a sketch cover of Amazonia 1 yesterday, along with the 7th anniversary collector's edition of issue 1. And I was very happy about that. And why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the things you got going on with the series? Because I know a lot about Amazonia based on what you told me, and I've read the first couple of issues, and I see this steady, gradual. This is something that I think, or not something I think. This is something I love about comics is when you can pick up that first issue of a book, whatever it is. And after you get to issue 2, you start to see some improvements, some more developments. And then you read issue 3, and then you read issue 4. And suddenly by issue 4, you need issue 5. It's not about like, oh, I'll just keep going on. That's when you see that steady, gradual increase in creative quality. And this is all you, mind you. For all you guys who don't know Joe is the writer, artist, letterer, colorer. He does it all.
Don't do the color, but don't do the color. I stopped that. That was nixed after issue number 3.
Even more so. So now you got a colorist on who you have to pay, obviously, and you're doing all this with a full-time job. So this is just, honestly, man, and just seeing how you funded this so quickly and. You are every creator falls into that dead zone, and this is exactly why I wanted you on now, so that we could give you that push. So where are we at? What everybody sets that goal, right? They say, all right, I want to make that initial goal of what I need in order to make this project happen. You hit that goal already. Now there's the next goal, the stretch goals. What are the stretch goal? When you meet these stretch goals, what is this going to allow you to do? To bring more to us?
Well, it's what the way that I approach the stretch goals this time around is giving you free books, but it's also in return it also helps further the next issues where I could either fund it directly back to make certain that I have the same colorist, to keep everything up where it's at, where as far as having multiple colorists available at one time, where if one can't do it, I could go to the other one, make certain that my editor is still on board, where I could go and get other variant covers without worrying about where the money is going to come from. Now, the cool thing about the way that I set my goals is that I only worry about printing. And that's one of the things that people kind of like get that leery feeling about. Why are you setting your goal so low? It's like a $500 goal. It's like for making a comic book. That's like, why can't you fund that? It's like, it's not really the fact about the $500. It's more along the lines, this is what I know is going to be printing costs for the number of backers that I had from previous campaigns.
And it's not even your fault.
For this book to be made. I'm not charging you guys for that.
Right.
And I see that too often in campaigns where it's like, I have a done book. I'm only asking for you guys to help me out to get it printed, and you get first crack at that book.
And that's a great incentive, to be honest with you. That's the main lesson I learned from my previous campaigns. Because like before I was thinking, well, we should try and fund the whole thing, all the production costs and everything. And I think that's a very bold thing to do. When you're at the level that we're at the independent level, because to raise crazy amounts of money, it's like, then you got to fulfill. And you don't want there to be this huge gap of time between when your campaign ends and when you provide the rewards. I've gone through that twice, and it'll never happen again. I will never hit that launch button until I know that my files are ready to go off to the printer and that I'm going to have those books within a certain amount of time. And I can let my audience know, like, conservatively speaking, that this will be ready within the next, 2 to 3 months or 1 to 2 months. That way they get their stuff, you move on, and you grow from there. And each time you hit that launch button, you keep getting more people in. And I love seeing you execute on this because it's working out exactly the way you want to. But another thing I want to point out is you're not, $500, that's not your full printing costs either. That's just a portion of it. So obviously the more money you raise, the closer you get to that break-even point of where you get those books at a break-even cost. We get first crack at everything. Mm-hmm. And now you can make your money on the back end by selling those books at cons. But here's another thing too that I want to say about you, Joe. I don't think that I know a single person in this entire business that's in it more for the love of comics than you. And I've known you for a while now, so I can honestly say that with certainty. You love this medium on so many different levels, not just as a collector or as a creator, but just every aspect of it. I mean, you're very firmly ingrained in comics. So tell us, where did this all start from? How did you get into this crazy?
Well, to be quite honest, the way that I got into comics was the way that teachers, well, I shouldn't say teachers, it was suggested to my mother about how to get my reading comprehension higher, because I was one of those kids that, I wouldn't want to read a lot of different things. And it wasn't like I was dumb or anything to that magnitude, because I was pretty much like, an A and B student. It's just that I had a problem expressing it, when I was in elementary school, expressing what I read. I was like one of those quote unquote gifted kids, how they, set you off to the side. It's like they seen that as like, wow, he has a understanding of mathematics at like a high school level, but why can't he read all that well? So they was, always trying to make me do all these different things. And then, they just slowly but surely was like, well, let's give him a comic book. Let's see how he does with that. And just from there, it just took off.
What was that first comic?
That very first comic, I know the first comic I actually bought. I know the first comic that was given to me by my family members, but the first comic that was introduced to me while I was in grade school, I can't remember. But then again, I also had a fondness for, like I said, it's weird because I don't remember the very first one, but I remember what I read the most, and that was those Radio Shack comic books.
Oh, really? Those, every single time I see those, I just grab them. I thought you were going to say...
People look at me weird. It's like, why? It's like, he's selling a Radio Shack comic book. Who would ever want that? It's like, you guys don't understand. Those things were very educational. And that's how they made, kind of get kids into comics in a certain aspect, a certain way. You might, laugh and snicker at it, but it did serve a purpose. It got kids to read about science. It got kids to read about, electronics and the world of science and all these other cool things without them feeling like, oh, I have a textbook and I'm reading from a textbook. And then that's the gateway to pretty much open them up to either something like Archie from there, or in my case, I kind of went the art direction. And as I got more involved with the art side of things, I went like Marvel, DC, and the rest of the way with that.
So what was your first, DC? I'm going to assume your first DC comic was Wonder Woman.
No.
Really?
I didn't get into DC until maybe high school, towards the beginning of high school. And that was, getting more towards where my grandmother saw that me and my sister was getting more and more into comic books. And she was telling stories about how she used to collect back when she was little. And that was one of the things that she collected was Wonder Woman. And that fed that aspect about Wonder Woman.
That's very interesting. That's interesting. And Amazonia, I would say there's a lot of like some similarities, not a lot of, but some similarities between the character you created and Wonder Woman. So I'm just curious. There may not be any correlation at all, but it's a question I have for you. What sparked the creation of Amazonia?
What sparked the creation is that the actual series itself is a spinoff of another series that I was afraid to put out there.
Really?
Yeah, it was called Last Line of Defense. And that's all because of the main character. The main character of that series pretty much kind of, it's like it would have put a lot of people back because it's almost getting to that aspect. It's like, what if a person actually had similar powers to whatever higher power that is down to, whether it's like, a Jesuit's god or whatever religion or something that you follow. That it's not that he's that person, it's just more along the lines, he went through a process and now he pretty much controls that type of will. And he lost his humanity as a result of it. So he had to learn how to become human again, in a sense.
Interesting. And I could see the connection. I could see the connection between that and Amazonia. It almost seems like Amazonia is the more evolved, not evolved, but it's like, I mean, it's kind of a similar idea, but go on. I'm sorry.
And the thing about that series is more like he works more towards his humanity because he has to lead this team now. And because he can do all this stuff by himself, if he really chose to and really change the whole aspect of the world, he has to regain his humanity. And he's really learning from those other teammates that he pretty much, I should say, gravitate towards him because it's kind of more of like a forced thing on him. That, he learns the ultimate truth about where we're supposed to be at as human beings and what power we actually truly wield if we actually, follow in those footsteps here. Now, with the main character of Amazonia, Elisa, the way that she plays a role is that, and to answer your question about Wonder Woman, she's actually the reverse of Diana. While Diana was created, by the Greek gods and everything, and she was the one that was pretty much chosen through the contest to go out to the world of men to save the rest of the world. Elisa is the opposite. She was born in what is considered man's world, not knowing her heritage. And eventually she's going to go back and find out what she truly is and become the savior of her own people in that aspect. And it's going to be kind of like a lifelong journey for that. For her to understand exactly about her mother's side of the heritage. And then after she finds out about it, she comes back and has to, live with that aspect of like how she really is and how powerful she truly is. Again, the whole aspect of the overall theme that we're trying to create in this book is, can somebody like her ever live what is quote unquote a normal life? That's the reason why it's so much of a slice of life story, as opposed to fighting the villain of the week and just getting all this, the superheroics and the superpowers and stuff like that. You kind of lose sight of what builds a character. You want people to love the character. You want people to see the struggle of that character and why that character does the things that she does.
You've been very methodically working on each issue too.
Mm-hmm.
How long does it typically take you to get one issue of Amazonia completed?
Well, writing it is easier than drawing it, because the way that I have to look at drawing it, because of her height, I have to look at perspective and really put a lot of attention on like backgrounds and scale. And that's with one of the things that a lot of people were asking. It's like, well, why don't you get another artist? It's like, when I tell them this concept, it's like, oh yeah, we can do that, or I could do that. And they go to town and I'd be like, that's not what I had in mind. That's not how I see this. And it's a difference between, hiring like a gun for hire as opposed to getting it right for the story's sake. And so, that one cool thing about it is that, and you have seen the actual first print of issue number 1, where I actually started at to where we're at with issue number 7. It was a lot of art growth that went into that because I had to learn. And the reason I had to learn is because as I started getting more and more artists to do covers, I have to be able to communicate with them and and put it into terms that they understand of how this character works. So one of the things that I always do is when I do have people that do variant covers, it's more of a tryout. And the simple tryout it is more along the lines, I want you to read the story. I want you to get a feel for the story. And I want you to do a cover. Sometimes I let you go for what you know. And sometimes I give you the key thing of, here's the script for issue number 8. I want this to fit in issue number 8. What can you give me? Sometimes I get things like for example, like with Steph Wilson and Daphne Lage. And sometimes I get stuff that I'd be like, okay, I have to add this into like maybe like a if I could say like a later book for like an art gallery book. Hold on to it and pay for the art, hold on to it, and then add it into like an art gallery book and stuff like that, and then come back and tell people, this artist did this and this is what they did and how they see the character and this, that, and the other.
I see.
But it's just more along the lines of understanding, getting all factors, all people involved to be on the same page. Now, I could be like how most other people are and be like, well, they're work for hire. They just got to do what they got to do, or trust in their artwork. It's like, that's the thing. It's, to me, comics is not about artwork. It's a perfect marriage between art and writing. You have to have an artist that can illustrate a story. You got to have a writer that can write a good script and dialogue. And then on top of that, you have to have that overarching editor that could look at it and be like, no, you're the writer, it's wrong. The average person wouldn't react that way. Or you, the artist, no, you did not draw this correctly because the human body doesn't do that. And it's kind of like one of those things where as you go on that journey, you get to talk to different people who have done editing. You get to talk to people who have done, the penciling, the inking, the coloring, and everything. Like I said, I'm still learning the whole coloring process. I don't trust my own coloring. So it's like you said, it's like you've seen the progression of growth since then. By issue number 3, I knew that coloring was not going to be my strong suit because I would get to the point where after I get through flattening it, I'm done. It's just that much work. It's like coloring is not as simple as people think. So is inking. Inking is not tracing over pencils. Inking is an art form within itself.
I agree 100%.
And until you do it yourself, you would never know how painstaking inking and coloring is.
I feel the same way about lifting my finger. It's like sometimes it's also like a lot of hard work. No, I'm just kidding.
But the thing about lifting your finger, and that's a good analogy about lifting your finger. Some people take it for granted.
Yeah,
but
there's so much going on.
Let's something happen to that finger where it's like, oh, I can't move it. It's a struggle. What do I need to do to lift this finger now? And you did have to go grab your other hand and be like, okay, now it's lifted.
Pull my finger.
Right. Exactly.
All right, Joe, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation. I actually have a story about lifting fingers and everything. So
okay.
You guys don't lift a finger. Sit back, watch these commercials because there's important information in every single one of them. It's all about comics and growing this beautiful industry and hobby that we love so much. So we'll be right back and we will continue this awesome conversation.
Thanks for tuning into The Experience. Help us out and hit subscribe over on YouTube and click the bell when you do. Need some help? Scan the QR code in the bottom corner. Are you a comic creator? Are you a publisher? Do you make a comic book product? Do you own a retail store? Do you do something I haven't thought of? Who are you and what do you do? Let us know by advertising on The Experience and invite our viewers to patronize your product. Message the EXP on social media or email us the_EXP@yahoo.com for more details. For years, I have traveled the world slinging my creator-owned comics at the biggest and hottest cons. Now I'm sitting down with creators who have active crowdfunding campaigns happening right now, and I'm opening the gateway so that you can connect with them and support their work. You're watching Kickin It With Onrie, the live crowdfunding show.
We are back with G.I. Joe!
Real comic book hero.
Real comic book hero! Two of the best in the business. This ain't no DK2. Well,
it could be worse. It could be DK3 and the Wonder Woman cover for issue what? 3, I believe.
Well, I came across a Dark Knight Strikes Again yesterday. A copy of issue 1 and issue 2. And I found them. I sold them already, but we were having a conversation about it yesterday. You missed a great episode. I 2 great episodes yesterday.
Well, you know where I was at yesterday, right?
Where were you yesterday?
Yesterday I was on Comic Book Spectrum. I actually reviewed what was it? Flashpoint Beyond #1.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, on I'm not certain if you know who Brian K. Morris is.
Yeah, I know Brian very well. Brian's
the
awesome.
Lifetime Network, and I contributed to his network on Comic Book Spectrum, and then my show is also associated with that now from the Decimal Small Press Publisher.
Brian's been working really hard on the broadcasting front for, I think, longer than any of us have. He's been up there since like 2016 or 2017.
Something like that, yeah.
Doing his Nevermind the Furthermore, and now he's just constantly growing it, and really fantastic. Actually, he used to do freelance work for DAC. He was he was doing interviews on for Comics Interview, which was really
That's right. He did.
Yeah. So that's how Brian and I actually got connected. But I wanted to tell you, Dak always used to call me the Padroni. So he was always making jokes about me lifting a finger. And he would tell me about, like, he's like, yeah, I just me and Joel were going back and forth with the letters for a little bit, and now it's time for you to lift a finger. And I was like, I want to have to lift a finger. It's just too much work. So David Morris says, Brian is such a good dude. I've been lucky to meet him a few times on my travels. That's fantastic. You know who I haven't met on my travels? David Morris!
Exactly.
I was supposed to meet him at Dragon Con. That didn't happen. So I brought all his comics with me, and I left him at a CD hotel that he later came to.
Oh,
it wasn't
okay.
that CD. It was like a Holiday Inn or something, but seedy enough. He comes in from work with his chiseled chest, and he's like, "Where are my mofo comics?" That's how it goes, David Moore.
And you was like, "Here, Mr. Moore, sir. Don't be mad at me."
Yeah, don't be mad at me. Please don't slap me again. he just Will Smiths everybody everywhere he goes. There's like, have you ever seen that video of people, or that one guy who just slaps everybody and it just becomes so like no one can stop him
it was like a
every
family
time.
reunion or
Yeah.
like community barbecue, and he got so angry. It's like nobody was doing anything to discipline the kid. He goes up to the kid, slap the kid, and then here comes the father. It's like, why'd you slap him? Slap. And then somebody else, slap, slap, slap.
They asked me for the password and made me say Finn Jones is a top-notch Iron Fist. Just you wait. I have a whole skit prepared next week. But we're not here for that right now. We are here for you, Joe. Mm-hmm. And you are in the middle of your campaign. This is the dead zone. Highway to the dead zone.
Yep. Every campaign has it.
Every campaign has it. This is the worst part, and we're going to make it the best part for Joe's campaign right now. The one thing I've noticed Jay do, and Jay is our producer today. Jay, you rock, brother. My man. He dropped the link for Amazonia 7. Just scroll up a little bit. You guys will see the comment there. Jay, feel free to highlight your comment. I can't do that, but if you want to bring it up on the screen here so everybody can see it, just scroll up, click on that link. Back this campaign right now. Let's make that dead zone into a less dead zone, a live zone.
May I have permission to show them what somebody actually backed for at $200?
Absolutely, please. Of course, you have permission to
at $200. There's a tier where you could get a custom sketch cover for me. This individual bought it and they wanted a homage to Uncanny X-Men 168.
What was it?
I actually started work on it. I got it penciled and inked, and over this weekend I'm going to end up coloring it, but that's how it is as of right now.
Uncanny X-Men 168.
There you go.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And the only thing I have to do is
that's dope, bro.
And now all they have to do is just get my Prismacolor markers out and finish it off here. So, that's kind of like getting your appetite wet of what you actually end up getting here. Now, this here is it's being done on a 10th anniversary #1. So you could either have it on a 10th anniversary #1 or this sketch cover version of issue #4. You get to pick and choose here because I have blank sketch of both issues here. Now the issue #4, they're limited because they were out longer. So since I have these new 10th anniversary edition #1s in sketch cover form, those issue #4s are probably going to go away. So when I finish with the very last one, there is no more. So just to give you guys a heads up here, and that's a $200 ask, and that $200 ask is a sketch cover like this one here, plus all 7 issues of Amazonia, including all the variant covers, the digital aspect of it, the digital aspects of each one of those issues, and everything, all one nice, wrapped up nice, neatly in a bowl.
That's a fantastic tier. And how long does it? There's a couple of things I want to point out here. First off, these sketch covers are really unique unto themselves because once you have that original art on there, there's only one of those in existence.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is there's probably a limited print run on that as well, I'm going to assume. I don't think you have like tens of thousands of these books floating around.
Mm-mm.
So if you guys get this, you're getting something very exclusive, very limited, and you're getting work directly from the creator. And Joe's doing everything. He's in this case, you're actually coloring as well. And I love. Can you show us that cover again? I really, that was wonderful.
I have other examples, but this is the one. I'm not going to give the backer's name here, but he was happy with this.
Why wouldn't he be? This is awesome. This is so fantastic. So Joe, you do conventions too, right? Like you do.
Yes, I do conventions, but this year I'm going to have to forego conventions because of a family matter. not to get into too much detail as far as who, what, whens, wheres, and whys is. It's just that after you have a family member that has gone through chemotherapy, you have a person with a compromised immune system. I can't, if you're around them that much, you can't put yourself in a situation by going to like a show or going to like a event where you're around people that you don't know, and you don't know if you come up with something that is going to affect them, or just by being around them, you bringing it back in, you don't know how they may react to it. So pretty much that's the reason why this year I had to be like a kibosh on all conventions. But I'm going to miss C2E2.
I'm not.
It's been 12 years. I've been there since the very first one.
I know. So bye. Oh, look at that. We're out of that dead zone.
Hey, yep, I see it. Yep.
Dead zone.
Yep, we're there. We got out of the dead zone. We got one more. Thank you, David Moore. Thank you very much here. So we're out of it. Yep.
Jay's the man. We don't know each other. I love really easy. Really easy. You know, sorry. Can get myself canceled here.
You know, that's a whole different discussion to have. Maybe we need to do that on my show, where I just don't really give a care one way or the other, because I think we're too worried about getting canceled, you know, especially when it comes to things that are common sense. We're just too worried about it.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you just gotta speak your mind.
I was actually gonna go back to our C2E2 experience. So I remember
you talked about in December.
Yes. My God. So Joe and I were in completely different like corners of the show. And I think they just purposely both placed us in like the worst like sighted areas, because as always, and this is what I hate about C2E2, everybody in Artist Alley is like, this is the greatest show ever. I always break every record. And I'm always in some weird corner. And I have the exact opposite effect at this show that I do at every other convention I go to. It's always the hometown shows that are so freaking difficult for me. So, you know, Joe was messaging me at one point, and he was like, how's it going for you? And I'm like, the Lord is watching us. He's watching us get our asses kicked. Yes, we can't get canceled. You too. Yeah, we are. That's true, Joe. We are pillars of this community until they decide we're not. Until the information comes out that Onrie is charging more for his comic books than Ted Sikora is, I'm a pillar of the community.
But you know what they said. It's like you can't spell dishonest without T, E, and D.
You heard it here, guys. And if a guest says it, then you know it's true. But you know, you seem to be concerned about that, the whole like, you know, canceling thing. But honestly, I agree with what David just said. I mean, you really are a pillar of the community. You support so many creators. You have your own show, and you know, I honestly, man, you understand what comics is about. Comics are for everyone. Mm-hmm. That's the main thing that I learned when I first started dealing on CBS, and that's what Jen King just said it plainly. I remember I was talking with her on the phone. She said, "Comics are for everyone," and it's not even an opinion. It's just a statement. It's a fact. Comics are for everyone. You get that.
I go even further than that. The way I truly feel is that you always want to turn people on. You never want to turn people off. Comics is for everybody. So if you like something in comics and you want to share, and it's your job to share it, it always turns somebody on to it, not to turn it off to it. Because get ready for those people with those fingers on the cancel button. I don't care anymore. We're in a decade, or I shouldn't say a decade. I should say in a generation, especially dealing with comics, where we got the tyrannical, fanatical fan that does not understand the aspect of turning people off to what you love. And I know I talk about a lot of different things and everything like that. And people come up to me and be like, hey, you know, have you seen this? And I give them my honest opinion about it, this, that, and the other. But when I get around that tyrannical, fanatical fan that's like, you have to like this for the same reason I like it, I was like, you don't realize what you just did. You turned me off to it. I don't want to be around you. I don't consider you a fan anymore. We could all like things for different reasons, but we have to accept that fact that you like it for this reason, I like it for that one, and we come together and we have fun because it's something that we love. You know, we love this. This is the reason why comics is for everybody. Everybody gets a little bit different from it.
You know what the best thing about it though is? There's only one project that exists out there, and it's not a comic book, it's actually a movie adaptation, but there's only one movie out there that has a unanimous everybody has a unanimous opinion about it. You want to know what it is?
What is it?
Frank Miller's The Spirit. I have never met one person who said that movie was good. Unless you're the first.
Let's just say. See, I just gotta say this. As much, and you know this, I'm a fan of The Spirit.
I am too.
I'm kind of like a newcomer to the Spirit franchise.
Sure.
I'm a fan nonetheless, and I advocate for how Will Eisner handled the comics. I'm trying to emulate a lot of the stuff when it comes to the storytelling. But the Frank Miller movie made it more like a caricature than the actual comic.
It was not Frank. It was not Will Eisner's The Spirit. It was.
It was Frank Miller. It was Frank Miller's The Spirit. But then again, Frank Miller also gave us one of the better unknown. I shouldn't say unknown, but unpopular. I want to say unpopular, not well-known characters that should be read too. And that's Martha Washington.
You know, I always say this. Frank Miller is the single best and worst creator of all time. And I say it's single best, meaning like the work that he did that was great is some of the greatest work in comics. I worship it. I swear by it. I study it. You know,
but again, he has some turds.
And everybody does.
Right. He did have some turds.
Everybody's got turds. Everybody's got to poop.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got to poop. So we got JD Smith asking, where have you been? Because he hasn't seen you on Brian's stream in a long time.
Well, no, I've been there. I've been there. You haven't been to Comic Book Spectrum on Thursdays.
Yeah, Joe, JD, what's up with that? You can't call out G.I. Joe.
No, but it's like, you know, JD is a cool guy. He's a cool guy. He comes to Comic Book Spectrum. You know, he gives us a little bit of guff and everything. You know, he jokes around with us and everything. But it's like over the last, I say 2 or 3 weeks, he hasn't been there. So it's kind of like one of those things. It's like, hey, you might miss me, but I also missed you. So
everybody's got a turd in their toilet. Mm-hmm. Comics should always be inclusive. There's things I don't like, but I still appreciate it because, yeah, you know, David Moore, you are another person who's just absolutely phenomenal, supporting this industry at everywhere I look. David Moore is out there supporting creators and supporting what we do because it really is such a special thing. Now it's time for us to take that second commercial break, but when we come back, I want to talk about the importance of what you're doing right now in the grand scheme of things, where we're going next. And if you guys are wondering, I'm holding this connector here to get high speed in there. Because guess what I'm going to be doing in 15 minutes? No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to be doing invoicing. Bang, 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 bang. All right, guys, we'll be back in just a moment. And we're going to close this out with some really epic conversation. Stick around.
Imagine being at a convention and going to an interview panel that's just for you. No bustling crowds, no hours-long lines, just you, the moderator, and your favorite comic book creators. Well, this is pretty much that. Miss Jen sits down every week with 2 comic book creators for a live stream interview about their latest work, and you can ask them whatever you want. It's Talking Shop, Mondays at 5 Eastern on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales. Comic Collectibles is a pretty straightforward show. You got Rex here, he sells the comics, and you got Rockin' Robbie, he knows about the comics. And finally, John, well, no one really knows what John does. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a great guy, but he just keeps showing up. Come to think of it, I don't even really know how he gets in here. Anyway, awesome comics, rare books, rarer signatures, slabbed books, and amazing cover sketches by Ken Hazer and others. Simple formula, you want the comics, you buy the comics. To sum up, Rex sells the comics, Robbie knows the comics, and John, who might possibly be a ghost. I mean, seriously, has anyone ever seen him show up or leave? Comic Collectibles with Rex and John, Mondays from 6 to 8 Eastern on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales.
For years, I have traveled the world slinging my creator-owned comics at the biggest and hottest cons. Now I'm sitting down with creators who have active crowdfunding campaigns happening right now, and I'm opening the gateway so that you can connect with them and support their work. You're watching Kickin It With Onrie, the live crowdfunding show.
What? Whoa, we've been reversed.
We're reversed. So does that mean I? Oh, okay. I'm about to say I'm about to take the lead here.
Yo, please, you get on the right side of that screen. You ever see that Simpsons episode when Bart got famous for saying I didn't do it?
Yes.
And then he was on Conan O'Brien, and then Conan was doing his like famous, like dance or whatever, and so Bart was trying to do it, and then Conan's like, "Don't do that. Only I can do the dance." We got Eddie in the house. Eddie, what's up, brother?
What's going on? Oh yeah, Ed, we're here. How are you doing here? Oh, and one more thing, JD. Next week, guess who's controlling Comic Book Spectrum? It would be me.
Oh,
we're going to be broadcasting from my network, for my channel for next week only, because Brian is going to be at a show. He will be traveling for a show, so I will be taking the hosting duties of Comic Book Spectrum only for next week, next Thursday, 6 o'clock p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can't miss it because I do stream to Twitch, so you will get the notification. So if you're not following me on Twitch as of right now, you need to do that. Look for my handle on Twitch I believe it's Silvo, but are you on any other platform other than Twitch here? Because if you are, you can look me up under Silvo, SIL as in Larry, V as in Victor, B as in Baker, OLT.
I don't use Twitch enough.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do the twitching. The only thing I twitch is my butt crack, but that's it.
No, you don't need that.
Yeah, you don't need that. I don't use it. I get it. I get everybody wants it. I'm just becoming a fossil now. I'm getting older. So it's like, well, here's the problem with Twitch is they don't allow you to sell stuff on there. So I could technically be streaming on Twitch, but it will block out my broadcast because they know it's a sales show. So it's like, it's weird. I mean, right now we're on Twitch.
Well, I already got my first content strike on Twitch.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Shame on you.
You want to know how I got it?
How'd you get it?
I got it because of an interview that I did with April Reyna. We ended up showing a lot of her artwork. Artwork was very risque. And because of their community standards, and they don't require people to log in to view content, so they have no age restricting characteristics whatsoever. So they take a hard line with artists as far as when it comes to artwork that contain nudity and stuff like that. They take a hard line on it no matter what.
Yeah.
And I had to do my research to figure out how can I fight this. And the more that I learn about it, it's like, you know what, let it be where let it be. I just have to pick and choose when I broadcast to Twitch based upon the content of those artists that I may have on the show.
Yeah, no, I've had April on before. I actually have a lot of her stuff, which I should have showcased yesterday, and I didn't. I've got so much indie stuff here; it's not even funny. It's all just kind of like sprawled out. I think my independent comics collection is actually bigger than my Marvel and DC stuff. Well, maybe that's an exaggeration, but it's definitely bigger than my DC collection. I mean, it's just, and I'm talking, when I say independent, I mean like Image, Dark Horse, all these publishers. But I think that independent comics in general have just come such a long way since the 80s. You know, like if you look at the quality of the books that are coming out now from publishers like SourcePoint, Scout, Big Dog Inc., even us, you know, it's like we're putting out, we got probably higher quality books out there in terms of how they're actually produced, because we're not doing these big extensive runs. We're doing like these smaller runs and more exclusive stuff. So you get better quality on your paper. And I was talking with Jim Noble about this last week. I mean, you know, he's getting like 9 9s and 10s from CBCS because he used to be a grader over there. So he knows this stuff like very, very well. As a comics publisher, he knows what to look for. It's really quite incredible how much they actually look into it. But the one thing that was interesting was there are certain books, modern books, that will not get gradings of anything lower than like, you know, a 7 or a 5. You actually have to go out of your way to get that 1.5 grade, and there's so few of them. But again, Edward brings up another one, Coffin Comics. Like Brian Polito is my freaking hero. The guy's the Michael Jordan of what we do, straight up. I have been saying that for years. I've told Brian himself, he's incredible. It's amazing.
Now, the one thing that I can say with quite certainty, if you do follow the history of independent books, there's a couple of key things that made this all possible over the next couple of years here, and that was one, the advent of digital printing. It made print on demand available for smaller entities a lot. It made it possible for print on demand to be more accessible, and you're not adhering to 5,000 volume of 5,000 anymore. You could get the 1,000 or 2,000 or 500 or 100 books printed because that capability was there. That was around like the 1990s when we started seeing print on demand really picking up and the technology changing and everything to that magnitude. The second thing is that there was more of an influx of artists coming in from the bigger companies like Marvel and DC that no longer had a job, but they had a passion project, and they started working on that passion project. The third thing is what we're talking about right now, was the advent of crowdfunding, because now you got people who can come out here to a platform, show them their work or show them their complete concept of what their book is about, get the funding for it, they could go ahead and produce the books or produce a series and go forward from there. So the influx of a lot of independent books, you're going to see that quality is going to shoot up from where it was from back in like the 1970s and 80s to where it is now. That influx of quality is shot through the roof, and now you're going to see those things that we consider upper echelon. I don't use the notice. I'm not going to use the word mainstream, because the word mainstream is where all of us wants to get to. We have to understand that people in general, you want to become a household name. Becoming that household name means that you're mainstream, meaning that everybody knows who you are. They know your branding. They know, if you have like a specific logo for your character, they know what that logo is and everything. When people see it, they recognize it.
You know what? I'm gonna make sure everybody knows Gasolina by the time I'm done in comics.
Exactly. I mean, you have to, but that's the key thing. We all shooting for that mainstream title. So to me, considering only Marvel and DC mainstream, it's like that's wrong because Image to me is mainstream.
They are mainstream.
Certain Dark Horse titles are mainstream. I mean, we almost getting to the point where you're going to have Scout titles that's going to be mainstream right now that people going to know it instantly when they see it. We're all striving for that. But the thing that we were talking about as a whole of like why indie comics is growing and getting to quality, because we're finally catching up to where those upper echelon corporate comic book companies had the advantage because they had the money to do the marketing and everything and the technology and it could afford everything. Now, because technology has caught up where it's more affordable, we could catch up and then surpass.
Absolutely. All right, Joe, we have to cut it. We have to cut it here because Nick's original art show is coming up next. I want to thank you so much for coming on. Guys, if you're watching this right now, we got a nice room in here. Please back Joe's campaign. He is, as you guys can see, one of the kindest, most sincere people in this industry. He's doing everything himself. This is one of those projects where it's truly about the passion. Jay, thank you for sharing that link there. We will be back next week. I'm going to be doing a pre-recorded episode. I'm actually interviewing next week's guest tomorrow. I will have more info on them next week. Until then, have a wonderful weekend. And Joe, thank you again so much for joining me this evening. I know you had to leave your day job in order to be here. Thank you so much.
Not a problem. It's more my pleasure, and thank you for opening up my campaign to your audience. That's a sincere, humble thank you for that.
Oh no, man! After everything you've done for me, this is the very least I can do. I appreciate you, brother. All right, guys, have a wonderful evening. We will see you guys next week.
Join the party. Head over to our Linktree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.